Hauntcast.
For hunting and Halloween fanatics.
The Prop Shop.
I am your G-host, Baker, and joining me for some shenanigans in the prop shop is Mike James of the Umbro Corvo Cemetery, home haunt, and he's going to school us on making some prop eyes, or making eyes for our Halloween props. That probably sounds better. So, Mike, why are eyes so important?
Well, it's what they always say. Eyes are the windows to the soul, right? You look at something, and there are a couple things that really clue you into whether or not something is real or could be alive, at least in my opinion. Eyes being one of them. Hands, I will tell you all day long, you got to focus on the fingernails, because for whatever reason, when I look at a fake hand, if the fingernails look real, I think it's a real hand. Same thing with eyes. Back in the day, probably maybe 15 years ago, I was at Midwest Haunters Convention back when it was in Columbus, and this was before I had done anything major, but I wanted to go down there and walk through, and I walked by a set of clown props, and I looked over and I saw these eyes, and they looked realistic. They were just dummies, but the eyes looked realistic, and I thought to myself, damn, that's an actor. They got somebody in this lineup, and they're trying to get jump scares, and I realized, no, it's not. But the eyes were what convinced me in the back of my reptile brain, right, that this is a guy standing there. It's not a prop. And after that really kind of hit me, and I started working to get, higher quality, better looking eyes, and I started trying to distill down what makes an eye, even if you don't have a human looking eye, what makes an eye look real. And so that's kind of where I started with. And I figured if I could get realistic eyes into my props, I was halfway there convincing somebody that as they were going through, they were seeing something that was alive or used to be alive. So that's really kind of where I started. And I've done the same thing that you've done, right? I've gone through, I've bought eyes, but I'm a big maker. I like the process of creating it and figuring out how to make it look real. So I've tried just about everything under the sun when it comes to different kinds of eyes. All the way from the first set of eyes, I really tried ping pong balls. Don't ever do that. They're too big. They don't look right. You can't change them around. They definitely bug out, which if you're going for, I guess that's okay. But I've refined how I put eyes in my creatures over the years, and really kind of tried to push that. So
you mentioned ping pong balls, but what about the deodorant balls, which I think are a little smaller? Are they not?
They are. They're a little bit smaller, but they're hard to get. So unless you're gonna buy deodorant and pry them out of there,
unless you really are stinking up the joint, and you need cases and cases of deodorant.
But I've tried, you can get those wooden balls like at Michael's and Hobby Lobby. Yep. They're like a wooden dowel. I've tried those. I've had some success there. I've tried all kinds of different things. Marbles work really good. They're just hard to get in a decent enough size. And so, like, I got when you said bring a couple examples. These are 1/2 inch. These are great for little creatures, and these are our Daisy slingshot ammunition. You get like nice. 100 of them for like $4, right? And you put them in. They're white already. They're shiny already, which is huge when it comes to eyes. If they're glossy, that sells a good chunk of it. And you can hit these with an airbrush and put a pupil in them and a little iris. Turns them right into a realistic eye. So that's a good example of something you just find out, right? Another one, I'll show you a little.
Let me ask you a quick question. How would you do the iris on that? It's already like got that glassy color. So what would you use? You wouldn't just use regular gloss paint on it, or would you use something else?
No, honestly, if I'm just gonna put a dot for the pupil, I'm gonna grab a Sharpie.
Okay.
And I'm gonna cut that sucker off so it's flat. and I'm just going to come in real slow and just make sure I hit it one time and get that circle.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I found is if the pupil is a circle, unless you're going for a blown out look, which can be creepy too, right? Yeah. But if you just want to go for a regular eye, I've done other things. I've taken like foam cord. I don't know if you've seen that kind of stuff. It's about the right size for a pupil and an iris. I've also taken like foam earplugs, cut those off straight so I get a good round shape, and then I'll use that as a stamp to put the pupils in and to put the outline of that iris in, because that really kind of sells it. If it's circular, it's one of those things I think like uncanny valley, right? If it's off, you notice it, but if you get it close, it's going to really sell it to people and they're going to believe that it's real. Yeah. So I always try to get as round as I can for both the iris and the pupil. And I try to get the pupil as dark and deep as I can, because that's another thing. If you look at a pupil, it's almost like you're looking into a hole. If you can get the pupil to look like it's got depth to it, that's another thing where you're just selling the illusion, and it's making it look like a real eye again. And you can do that in almost any scale.
Nice. You know what I did find? There are those the little foam brushes that you can buy. They actually have ones that come in round shapes, and and they come in different dimensions. So I have like the small, medium, large, round ones, and I did use those on my psychedelic mushroom. I go boop right in the middle.
Exactly. Anything that's round like that, it's perfect. Yeah. You can do the same thing with you can use a dowel rod. You chop that dowel rod off and do it too, and just kind of get it in there. Yeah. If you can get that round shape, you're in good. Mm-hmm. You're going to get it. Where pretty close to where you want it to be, and people are gonna take notice of it.
Nice. All right. Yeah. All right. So what else do we need to there are different type of props that we'd make. There's zombies, there's monsters, you could have werewolves and vampires, all kinds of different creatures, regular human eyes. So what different techniques do you use depending on the different type of creature or
yeah, it really does. It depends ultimately on the critter and what I'm going for. The other thing, like you can do, here's some of the Sculpey eyes. I mean, that's a Sculpey eye that I put together, and used during a tutorial that I posted out. I mean, it looks real. The problem with this is, in haunt lighting, you lose it. So these type of eyes are great if you're doing something where people are going to be viewing it in good light, or you've got a decent spotlight on it. So you start to lose a little bit of the effectiveness when you put it under haunt light. So you got to kind of think about that a little bit, especially if you're gonna roll with monsters. Like I love this guy. He's one of my favorite little dudes. Those are glow in the dark airsoft BBs. I used to have an actor, because we had a pro haunt for about 6 years, and we had an actor that would carry this guy around, and she was a petite little thing, and when she pressed this, I got to replace his batteries. This dude says the Lord's Prayer in like a little kid's voice, and it's the creepiest thing. And she was under black light, so these things would glow, and so she would bring it up, and he would start the Lord's Prayer, and she'd just walk at people. So again, depending on what lighting you're doing, you gotta play around a little bit with different eyes. If you're in darkness, you need a brighter eye, unless you want the eye to disappear. This is a head popper that I've got. His eyes are really dark if you look at him, so you can see him. But under haunt lighting, they turn into pits. They're gone, and that's what I was looking for. I wanted him to pop up and look like he was missing his eyes. And so in light conditions, you can see he's got something there. Looks like he's got 8-ball hemorrhages or something, and then they just disappear under haunt lighting, and that makes them creepy at night. So when I'm doing something at the home haunt, people are walking by and seeing it during the day. They can see he's got eyes, but they see him at night. It looks like his eyes have disappeared, and I don't know. I think it adds a little bit to that creep factor. Different ways that I've made eyes. Like I said, the Sculpey thing that I just started experimenting with. That's a lot of fun. It's easy. It's cheap. Depending on what you did with the irises, and that has a cabochon on it. So you can change that size. You can change the size of the eye overall. I mean, this is roughly human size. You could print off different irises for behind that. You go in and get, like a gecko eye would be great for a monster. Goat eyes are creepy as hell if you can get a good high resolution picture, because all these are printouts. and you glue them on the back of that cabochon. You inset it into the eye, and then everything else you do on the side is veining and coloring and whatever you want it to look like.
Yeah, now, just so we can, I also forgot to mention this up front, as this is going to be audio and video. Explain, what is a cabochon?
Yeah, cabochon it's not quite a half circle. It's a slight domed piece of glass. They use them in jewelry. So if you search out cabochon, you can get them anywhere from a quarter of an inch up to 3 inches. I've seen guys make big monster eyes with them. I've seen some really neat dragons that have cabochons as eyes. And what they are is basically you reverse paint them. So whatever you want up front, you've got to kind of paint that, backwards, knowing that you're covering things up as you go through your layers. It's kind of like painting on a window or something like that, because you want anything that's up front to be on there and not being covered by the subsequent layers.
Yeah.
Hopefully that makes some kind of sense. You're kind of painting it in reverse.
Now I've seen a tutorial on it, so I understand what you're saying. It might be complicated for somebody to understand if they haven't seen it, and we can't show. That's not what we're doing here, but we're just kind of glossing over things. But one of the ways, like I say, a lot of people do is they do like a high res printout that is the same size of that cabochon, that little glass kind of dome, and you're gluing it onto the back, and it looks great. I mean, actually, I bought a couple of frog ones off of Etsy. Like, they're all over Etsy. People selling them, frog eyes, this eye, that, they have all kinds of different eyes on there. Pretty cool. You can also actually on Etsy, you can buy the printouts. You can just buy the different eye printouts and then buy your own cabochons and glue them to the back. Glue them right on and make your own eyes that way, which is cheaper than buying them already pre-done on Etsy. So
you just got to be careful that however you glue them on, it doesn't cloud it up. Because what I do with mine is I take on the pupil, I take a little dab of fingernail polish before I glue them on, and I dab that on the pupil, because what that does again is that gives that pupil that depth and that shininess that you don't get from just a straight up printout. So that helps it too, again, because it just makes it look deeper. When you're looking at the eye itself, so that's definitely a helpful hint. Like I said, the deeper and darker you can get that pupil, and I've used all kinds of things to make pupils. I've used epoxy, which is great. You can tint that, you can color behind it because it's clear. Different glues. E6000 dries really shiny, so you can paint behind it, put a dollop of that on there as long as you don't get bubbles, and you're going to get a really good shiny surface on there. You can do all kinds of things to try to get that. You can get high gloss varnish. You can get that from the paint section at your art supply stores like Michael's or Hobby Lobby. And anything you do to get that shininess up really helps when you're doing the eyes.
Nice. Now, when you're talking about using nail polish, you're talking about using black nail polish for that, right? Yeah. Not like a gloss. You're talking black. Yeah. Okay.
Well, and that's with these eyes, with the Sculpey eyes. I finished these with clear nail polish because it's what I had. I've got some UV cure epoxy that works really well, but I think it's going bad. It never fully cures, so it's sticky. And so I didn't have anything to use other than I stole my daughter's clear fingernail polish and put that on the outside, and it worked really well. I think it'll hold up pretty well outdoor. But you can, like I said, epoxy works great. A lot of people will tell you epoxy. Like this guy over here, I got another dead guy. His eye right there. That's a doll eye that I bought. And I shined him up with epoxy over the front of it, and it helps sell that eye, a ton more. And doll eyes they're a good solution too. They're relatively cheap. You can jazz them up. I got a doll eye where again I took the red yarn. You buy a thing of red yarn, you can eye for the rest of your life because you're pulling off these little sections. And this one's in process. I just need a single eye for something that I'm working on, and I just put the yarn on.
And how do you? What are you using to glue them on? Are you adding the epoxy, then putting the little pieces of the red yarn, like the strands on there. Just get enough on there, snip off what's the excess, and
Play with it, move it around,
and then it'll just dry and look perfect.
Yeah, and then let it dry. I actually have something called Glue All. It was a glue that I bought that I hate. It takes forever to dry, but it dries really clear. So I've been using that up. I'll brush that on, and then I'll put the yarn on. There, I forget, DAP or somebody makes it, and I haven't seen it in the stores. I think everybody else thought it was terrible. I'm trying to get rid of it now. But yeah, I mean, you could do fingernail polish, let it get a little bit tacky, put that yarn on there, and then really what I do to really kind of push that a little bit further. The yarn itself doesn't look real, but I use an oil wash. If anybody's familiar with that, what you do is you take oil-based paint and you take paint thinner, and you squeeze a bunch of the oil-based paint in, and then you thin it out with a paint thinner. I do it with brown and black primarily. You could do it with any color that you wanted to get a highlight. So if you were doing an alien eye, wanted green or something like that, you could do it that way. But that's how I get all that kind of yellowish aged look on there. There's a big difference once you put that on. It really kind of settles into the cracks and it ages everything out. That's actually something model builders and miniature painters use to try to bring out the detail in some of the really small items that they're painting. They'll use these oil washes and it fills in all of the deep recesses. It does the same thing. It kind of brings out that color. So, and I know we're doing a lot of audio here, but if you look at the two, this is the same yarn. The one on the left has had that treatment, and then the one on the right, I haven't treated him yet because I just glued him up today. So you can really kind of push that color. And I use the brown color because, again, it makes it look a little bit more diseased. And that's what, I always tell people, I don't do pretty. My stuff is ugly by design. I'm not a good enough artist to do pretty stuff, but I can do gross pretty well. So, and I really push that side of it. And it turns out pretty good. So gives that extra depth.
Yeah, and when you were mentioning epoxy, you are obviously referring to 5-minute epoxy.
Yeah. I mean, you could run other epoxy. You really would probably want something that's going to rotate to make sure you get an even coat. If you did like a 30-minute or a 24-hour, you could, but I don't know why you put yourself through that. I mean, Harbor Freight has a great 5-minute epoxy. It's cheap. It dries crystal clear, and if you don't touch it while it's drying, it dries shiny. And that's phenomenal. That's actually an old mask maker trick. They put that over their eyes. I've got a cast here. It's not mine. It's actually Laughing Ghosts out of Chicago did it. But this is a great example of an airbrush eye. And he coated that with 5-minute epoxy with just a little bit of blue in it. The blue tint keeps it from yellowing out. Mm-hmm. And it's just fun. I bought this because this shows you what you can do with an airbrush, and I love to have examples of talented artists when I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. But that's a great example of an airbrush eye where you just kind of pop the end of that airbrush off, you get in real close, hit it, it gives you a nice circle. You can go back out with a different color, blue in that case, hit it again, and you can just layer up that eye, and you can get a really convincing looking eye on anything round with an airbrush.
Yeah. I did my fisherman creature with. I had to do a fish eye, and I'm like, oh, this is actually pretty easy. And I did it with, and I'm not a great airbrusher, by any stretch of the imagination, but I can pull off certain things. At a distance, it looks really good. You're not picking it apart, but yeah, it's Thank God you guys helped me out. You and Chris Presley jumped in to the Discord when I was looking to tackle the eyes for the mushroom, and you guys started firing stuff at me, and I'm like, oh, you guys opened my eyes. To the possibilities of all the eye techniques that are available out there.
I think if you look, I mean, anything that's round or anything, you can get a great facsimile, especially if you're doing a monster. If it doesn't have to look exactly human. I mean, I think this is one of the foam eyes. It's really shallow that I've made, and it goes behind one of those Christmas tree bulbs. I think that's what you at least kind of took as inspiration. And
which is the other technique is using the Christmas tree bulb technique, right? So
Yeah, and you just grab some foam clay and you get a nice circle for the pupil and kind of sculpt in some lines and dots, and then you can go through. These are destined for pumpkins, so they're a pumpkiny color. But and then again, like I said, the center I try to get that pupil really, really deep dark black and really shiny, and I think it definitely sells the illusion.
yeah. Now they're Christmas. They're like you can make your own Christmas tree ornaments, and they're just two clear plastic globe pieces that snap together that people can put. Which you're using half of it.
Yep.
And putting foam clay in there and carving out, like I say, I did something similar, but I just bypassed the plastic globe, and I had a foam ball that was perfect size. I cut it in half. I put some freeform air on it instead of foam clay, and I took the aluminum foil and pressed it into the foam to the freeform air to give it that texture. Then did the washes with like the I think it was like the black wash, and then the like the yellow or the orange wash, and then the yellow or like more around the eyes, and then kind of had a little divot in there for the I think I just used like a dowel or something to make a divot for the pupil, and then added the black in there. Like, so it was just another take on that technique. Just because I was trying to work with what I had available. I wanted to get it done that day. So I'm like, what do I have here that I can pull that off? How can I pull this eye off with?
And I learned a lot from that exact same thought process. It's like, okay, what do I do today that I have here? Like the Christmas tree eyes, if you go on and you look at some of the tutorials, they use much thicker foam and it's a different process. I use just a very thin craft foam because it's what I had. I happen to have foam clay. I bought some of it. Again, that's what I had. That's what I used. And it turns out well. You can take a lot of these techniques and just change them around to what you got on hand, and you're going to get there, or you're going to get close. And you can go crazy with eyes. I mean, you can do all kinds of, you can 3D print them, you can cast them. I mean, I've got a casting set. If you want to make really detailed eyes, this is, who are they? Fourth Seal Studios makes a crazy set, and you cast them in a yellow resin, and then you go through and you take a lot of time meticulously painting them, either with a brush or with an airbrush is what I do with them. I don't have any here, unfortunately. A lot of my props are in storage still. But so they cast the white, you paint that up, and you put in a second mold that's just slightly bigger, and you either use dental acrylic or you use just like a clear 2-part resin. Put it in there. If you've got a pressure pot, that's even better because that'll push all the bubbles out of it, and you can end up with eyes that look just amazingly. I mean, they look completely real. But again, you're talking a lot of time. I can make 30 of those Sculpey eyes in the amount of time it'd take me to make one of those. So if I really need a great visual eye, I'll take that kind of time. But
if you're not making movie or museum quality eyes, it's probably overkill.
Yeah,
for what you're trying to accomplish.
It is, and it's expensive. It's like any other silicone mold. I mean, it's pricey to get the materials for it. I mean, honestly, I was about a month away from opening a mask shop. That's what I was originally going to do, and then I got approached to help open a haunt. And so a lot of this stuff, it was because I was prepping to get really into mask making and prop making, and then took a diverted trip down the pro haunt line for about 10 years. And I'm just kind of now coming back around and getting back into it after that's been shut down for about 5 years. After moving, COVID, everything else, right, kind of mess with everything. So I'm starting to rebuild my home haunt, and like I said, there's not a lot of point in me spending that kind of time to create an eye when a lot of this stuff makes a perfectly passable eye.
Yeah,
in a quarter,
especially in your yard in the dark.
Yeah,
with just with your lighting on it. what are they going to actually see?
Yep.
How close are they going to actually come to it? Probably not that close to it, but yeah. Any other techniques out there that we need to cover? Or we kind of just have we gone over most of the basic ones?
What I would say is keep looking. If you're out there looking for eyes, we're getting a lot of new options that are out there. Like you picked up Dimitri's eyes for your monster in the box. It's amazing, right? But you can get a cheaper version of the same thing and throw it into to different props as well. I mean, I'm working on one right now. I want to combine a head turn with these new digital eyes, which actually belong in cars. People have them for their fog lights, and I'm working on that, and they're too big to be human eyes, but they add movement. They're instantly recognizable as eyes, and as time goes on, those things are going to get better and better. Like last year, at Home Depot, you could buy replacement eyes for the 12-foot skeleton because apparently they go bad. It's like $24. Now they're way too big for almost every prop that we would put out unless you were making a giant.
Yeah,
but $24 for a set of digital eyes.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So, it's a wicked bargain.
Yeah,
it's a wicked bargain.
So I keep hoping that they'll start putting out, some smaller ones, so I can steal those and start using them and stuff.
Yeah, if they made replacements for their normal, like their 5-foot skellies, the posable skellies, that would be great.
Yep.
And I'm sure it's in the works. It's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah.
And that'll be great, because then we can steal all those and put them in all of our props.
Right. Right. Yeah, I forgot about the Dimitri eyes. I completely forgot about that. Was what got me down this rabbit hole.
Yeah.
This is what brought me, because I was looking for the eyes for the monster in the box, and I wanted digital eyes. So I wanted something that moved.
Yeah.
And I know, like I say, it all depends on price is, I guess it's expensive to you if you think it's expensive.
Right.
Sometimes people go like, hey, you know what? For the time it saves me if I have an F around and I get what I want, I'm willing to pay the money. That was kind of my mindset on it. I'm like, you know what? It's exactly what I wanted. Mm-hmm. It fits. It works. It's exactly what I want. I'm going to build this prop once. I'm hoping it lasts me for 10, 15, 20 years and I won't have to touch it again. So screw it. We'll just go that route. But I saw the ones that you were talking about as well, the ones for cars, which are pretty cool. Yeah, so
I got one of my guy. He's still in test wiring, so hopefully I don't. So there he is. He's still in paint. He's got a long way to go. But I mean, they're passable. And like I said, I think stuff like that's just gonna get better. But Dimitri's stuff, I mean, I can't say enough about how awesome that was.
They look so much more real. Those are fun. And especially if you're kind of going for if you're going for a little bit more cartoony, a little bit more fun, whimsical, they're great. I was looking for something a little bit more. I wanted it to be a monster in a box. I wanted it to look like a monster, So anyway, but yeah, so.
And all that, you can go through all that stuff with servos and everything else to make them move around. But when you've got a digital option, I mean, just put the screen in, right? I mean, that's go buy an old tablet and load up an animation on there or something. Just stick it in the box, I mean, there's so many options out there. I think that's really going to be where we see a lot of neat stuff in the next few years. I think we're going to have a lot of digital options. We're going to be, and maybe some projection options. Just one more, hot glue is a completely overlooked eye material. I don't know that you're going to be able to see it. I grabbed my old fog chiller. This guy's got hot glue eyes that are just dumped in, and behind him, he's got a black light, so they glow. If you do that to like a wooden dowel, and you fill it in and you backlight it, you can get a crazy great reflective monster type eye because the light comes out through that hot glue. And it looks like you got some kind of reflective eye shine type thing, and it works really great in the dark. So if you go to Walmart with a UV light and just shine it around, look at their cheap ass hot glue sticks, Find the one that glows purple. You can use that, or find one that doesn't glow, backlight it with another LED color, and you're going to get that awesome eye shine in the dark. That's going to give that eye an extra kind of pop underneath haunt lighting. I mean, you can give that a shot too. It's cheap, and if you can get something circular to put it in, it works out real good.
If you're looking to make some DIY eyes, hopefully we've given you some information to help you on your journey, and have opened your eyes. Boom. Double rim shot. So corny. I'm all about the dad jokes. Anyway, so I guess that's going to wrap up our little journey into the world of making eyes for right now. If you have any questions, comments, critiques, whatever, throw them down in the comments below. Hit us up, DM us, all that kind of stuff. In the immortal words of our friend Den Haunt, if you remember our buddy Denny, who used to be the prop master in the prop shop, it's nice to buy a prop, but it's a hell of a lot better to build one. So go build something already.
Please like, subscribe, comment, give us a 5-star review, share with friends, and buy us a beer if you see us out in the wild. Follow us on Instagram at hauntcast.podcast for show updates, as well as more pictures and video content. Join the Hauntcast community in the Hauntcast Discord server. Also, like and follow our Hauntcast Facebook page. Listen to the entire back catalog of our audio podcasts, available on all podcast platforms, with over 550 segments now available. Until next time, stay scary.